everyone, it's Pauline here, and it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. I've kind of been on hiatus, just getting some detoxing from Facebook as far as these could be called podcasts. But so this is close to the second to last day of Mental Health Awareness Month, and as I've told, I think some of y'all, at least y'all who are close to me, I have become more and more involved with my local Tri County Piedmont NAMI, the National Association or Alliance of Mental Illness. And one of the things that I have been working on is getting to that point where I am ready to share my story. I know I've been doing it on Facebook, but I am ready to kind of be that voice, help be that one of the voices in NAMI. So I've been working on my story. I did share this with a few of my friends last night, to those of you who are close to me, and before I shared it with some of my peeps over at NAMI. And at first, when I originally shared what I did share, um, with one of my peeps, so at NAMI, Miss Julia, I thought I was talking too much. That with what I had written, because I do tend to talk a lot, and so I had cut out some of the stuff when I originally had went over my little story with her, and her response was that, wait a minute, that first of all, that's way below the time limit of what it typically, sharing one story typically is. And second of all, it sounds like you're being way impersonal. You're not relating to the audience, Um, and I was just like, well, what I wrote, I did share a lot more background, and she's like, "Well, let's hear it." And I did it, and it must have made some kind of impact because she was just like, "That's good the way it is." And one of the things with sharing my story, one thing I do realize that I'm still realizing with the stories that I do share, not only with this, but the many other stories that I do share, it is going to make sharing my truth, speaking my truth, as some would word it, it will make some people uncomfortable. It may make some people view me differently, but my story is my story. My truth is my truth. I was just thinking about one of my older friends who was aware of my hospitalization, and when I was telling her my need to reach out to a therapist again, and her response was, "Why are you needing to see a therapist again? What's going on?" And I was just like, "Well, the anxiety, the depression has come back on." And she was just like, "Is it a Christian therapist?" I was like, "Not necessarily." She's like, "Well, don't let the devil get you down. That's just Satan and the devil getting after you." And so with that, with this story that I've shared, with me sharing this, she's one of the ones I didn't share it with. But one thing I do realize is that there are going to be some people who may hear this, who may be like that. Some people in my life, some people who in the audience that I do share this with, who may have that thought that, you know, you don't need a therapist, or if you do need a therapist, it should be this therapist. It should be a Christian therapist. But again, one thing I'm realizing with starting to walk in my truth, that if people are uncomfortable with it, then that's on them. So here we go. And this is again my story. It's my own voice. So for those of you who don't know me, like I said, I always introduce my videos as, "Hi, this is your girl P here." But so for those of you who may be watching this, who may not know me, my name is Pauline. Some of those close to me call me P. And as far as what I have experienced with mental health, why mental health is important to me, is that, my background with being a social worker, one of my last roles as being a direct social worker was working as a mental health professional. So I did have the opportunity to directly work with people who were clinically diagnosed with some mental health ailments, major depression, generalized anxiety. I've had experience working with people who were diagnosed with schizophrenia, with bipolar disorders. Pretty much, I've seen a lot of people diagnosed with some disorders that I had read about back in my master's um, uh, degree years of social worker, and seeing it firsthand for myself, and being able to work with clients like that, it was an eye opener. But the other thing that affected me and how mental health affected me is me being on the other side of being the one who not only serve those who need mental health, but also being the one who need mental health. So, so what happened? Um, what did happen to get me to this point where I am sharing a story like this? So, I have been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, major depression disorder, borderline personality disorder, which throughout this I'll call BPD, just because it's a mouthful, and post traumatic stress disorder, which I know some of you may know generally as PTSD. However, it was the anxiety, depression, and BPD, the borderline personality disorder, that built up throughout the years that impacted my life the most. And it seemed that these disorders, particularly the BPD and depression, started in my teenage years. At least I started, just looking back on it, it seemed like some of the symptoms, it did start manifesting itself in my teenage years, in my later, maybe later teenage years of high school. But it did become more severe in my late 20s, early 30s. As far as symptoms, it seemed that my mind and my emotions were all over the place. It seemed like my mind was constantly in overdrive. It seemed like my emotions ran rampantly. It seemed like there was no control. There was very impulsive um, reactions in regards to my emotions that came out seemingly out of nowhere. Um, the ruminating thoughts, the constantly having my mind on all of the time, it made it hard for me to get that peaceful, restful night's sleep, and it made it hard for me to concentrate and focus. Some of my friends who may have noticed me noticed that back when I did start having that inability to concentrate and focus, it was like kind of like I was off in another world. Regarding my BPD, there was that constant need for validation from others. Just needing to know that they did care about me and they wouldn't abandon me. And that led to the extreme codependency, that need to constantly text bombing, that I just wanted to know that they were there for me. If I didn't receive a response back right away, my thoughts were, oh my gosh, I've done something that they don't want me anymore. They don't want me in their life anymore. Or they've pushed me to the back burner. I don't matter to them anymore. So there was that constant need of reassurance that I did matter to them. And that led to the extreme codependency of feeling like that I did need them in my life all of the time for every little thing. With my depression, there was the insecurity about how people perceived me, which kind of goes hand in hand with anxiety as well. Um, and I had constant thoughts that I was worthless, I could never be good enough, that I could never measure up. Um, and all of this impacted my personal, social, and my work life. It soon became a struggle for me to get out of bed, and the urge to isolate myself became stronger and stronger. I'll never forget, and I'll always give a shout out to my fitness instructors, my cardio dance fitness instructors. But I know, and I won't name any names, there's that one time when I was in a severe depressive mode when Zumba, those of you who know me, Zumba cardio dancing is my life. And there was one moment, a few times when I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to get out of bed. I couldn't, you know. And I had reached out to some Zumba instructor, some cardio dance instructor friends, just telling me, just letting them know I was in that mood. I might not make it to class. And they were just like, even if you have to stand in the back row, even if you just two-step it, get out, come to our class. And yeah, that's what I'll say. My instructors, I love you guys. But anyway, so my depression, it was hard for me to leave the house. I lost the motivation to engage in the hobbies and activities that used to bring me happiness and joy. I started backing out of plans with my friends at the last minute. The intense irritability and mood swings over, it seems like almost every little thing would cause me to set off, and there were grudges I held on to that for seemingly no reason at all, that I sometimes held on to hours, days, weeks. I ain't even gonna lie, years. And some of my friends would call me wishy-washy, when it seemed that one minute I would want to hang with them and the next minute I didn't want anything to do with them. And sometimes that up and down mood swing would happen within hours, within days, a day, where one minute at the beginning of the day, yeah, let's hang out. At the end of the day, I do not want any damn thing to do with you. And my friends could tell something was wrong. However, with me not telling them what exactly was going on and them not knowing what exactly was going on, I did burn many bridges. I knew something was wrong, but I was scared to admit it out loud to others or to acknowledge it to myself because I was ashamed of how others would see me, particularly those close to me. I, I didn't know how they would see me as the one who people tend to see me as the bubbly one, the one who's always the one who is happy, smiling, jumping, and I didn't know what to expect if they knew what I was going through. And I didn't want to acknowledge it to myself because I was ashamed, again, of how others would see me if I did start seeing a therapist or I needed to be put on medication. I was ashamed of being a social worker and mental health professional who needed mental health assistance myself. I believed that I couldn't provide the help that my clients needed if I needed the same help myself. I was binge drinking and binge eating when I was alone. I was what some may call a highly functional alcoholic. Again, on the outside, I was able to, for the most part, go about my day, do what I had been doing, and behind closed doors, I was binge drinking. Um, it seemed that 2022 was the worst year of the buildup of some of the life struggles I was going through that increased my mental health struggles. There were several times that I felt the need. Like I said, I knew what was going on. I knew something. I knew I needed the help, and there were several times throughout last year that did. I literally had thought about dialing 911 so I could be admitted to the ER to be hospitalized, but I backed out because of that self shame. Not only, again, thinking of how people would think of me, my close friends would think of me if I needed to be put on medication, if I needed a therapist, let alone needed to be hospitalized, And it wasn't until I experienced my very first anxiety panic attack in about April of 2022. and the suicidal ideations that followed of not wanting to wake up so it could all just stop. Ideations that came on after those anxiety panic attacks of what would happen if I didn't wake up, what would happen if I did die, would anyone care? And having those thoughts is what led me to self admit myself and get the full help that I needed. So, with all of that, what helps? Definitely breaking through those trust barrier walls and being willing to open up to those close to me and not hiding what I am experiencing. That helps them to understand me better so they can provide the support they can in the best way that they can. And opening up also helps me realize that I'm not alone and that people do care about me. I'm also more open and honest to not only my therapist and my psychiatrist, but my primary care doctor and my neurologist. As some of y'all may know, I have been diagnosed with a seizure disorder, and my PCP and neurologist are more aware of my mental health stressors that can trigger some of my medical conditions, particularly my seizure episodes, which is often triggered by anxiety. It's pretty much, for me, it's one of my triggering points that do cause the episodes that I do have. And it was actually my neurologist back before I did started getting a mental health medical team of my therapist and my psychiatrist. It was my neurologist who actually did diagnose me with generalized anxiety disorder when I did have my very first seizure episode. So, helping basically keep everyone in the loop, all of my medical team members, helps me. Um, I Another thing that helps me is that I do keep track of how my psychiatric medications make me feel. I do speak up and advocate for myself when it seems my side effects are of that the side effects are too severe. And I schedule appointments as needed with my psychiatrist. I know one thing that I've learned along the years is not to be that passive client. I understand that, the professionals are the professionals, but at the same time, if I feel that something's working the wrong way, I have learned that I do need to speak up about it. So that has definitely helped me along the way. Um, with my therapy, I one thing I've learned to, and I know learning for myself, not being the therapist, but being the one who is in need of therapy. I understand that the therapist is there to guide you. They are there to help provide the support from their end, but they can't do the work for you. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the work, and that realization has helped me in understanding that my therapists don't have the answers for me. I I need to do it. I need to put in the work and the effort. Being active in support groups with others who experience mental illnesses, such as the Connection support group that NAMI provides, which I will drop the local NAMI, the Tri County NAMI's website in the comment section. That helps me see that I'm not the only one going through mental struggles. In addition, being more involved with NAMI by volunteering and supporting their events helps me realize that, or helps me be more aware of ways I can break the stigma. I've cut out alcohol to stop self medicating myself. I've started getting back into the healthy activities I enjoy, such as reading, going to the movies, working out, and spending time outside in nature, which one of the things I have found is that being in nature is one of the ways that helps me tap into my spirituality side of it, which has helped my mental health improve. I just love nature. Um, and I've practiced mindfulness by taking the time to check in with myself and be more self aware of how I'm feeling mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. With checking in on yourself, with being mindful to yourself, for yourself, it all ties in together. If anything's off, if you're feeling anything's off with your physical with your spirituality, that can play a part in how you're feeling emotionally and mentally. And the same thing goes the other way. When you're off mentally and emotionally, that can impact the physical and the spiritual. So, me just being mindful of all that makes me me. In addition, I have been mindful in combating negative self talk with positive ones and realizing, starting to realize that thoughts are not facts, that, thoughts are just thoughts. There's often no way of guarantee that the thoughts that you have are actual facts. And that plays into one of my biggest actions is not hiding my true emotions. I do this by giving myself permission to experience what ever emotions I may feel, the quote unquote good emotions and the bad emotions. That it's okay to feel not only happy, joy, sad, or excitement, but it is okay when you do have that anger, when you do feel sad, when you do feel not okay. It's okay to not be okay. And it helps me with that. It helps me to communicate with others, those in my close circles as well, that I'm not okay. Whenever I do have those moments when I don't want to talk to anyone, where I just need some me time, it's communicating, being more open, um, letting down my walls, and communicating that I'm not okay definitely has helped me. And it also helps me to share my story to not only help me on my mental health recovery, but it helps me to also help others. And so, what's next? What's next in my recovery? What's next in my healing? For me, my recovery and healing is the confidence and self validation I've regained in knowing that I am worthy and I am valuable. I can do this by taking it a step at a time, that I don't need to take on everything at once in order to succeed. Recovery, and I call it healing, my healing journey for me, because this has been healing my recovery in regards to my mental health. So, my recovery and healing for me is having self validation of my understanding that even if I do have setbacks or periods of regression, no matter how big those setbacks may seem, no matter how small they are, that realization that I have come a long ways than when I first started, and I have made extreme progress, and I'm still making progress. Recovery healing for me is the fact that I have learned skills to build healthier and more stabilized relationships. And learning those skills have helped me reach back out to some of those bridges that I have burned. And luckily, gracefully, I have been able to rekindle those relationships. I am still learning that the past is the past. It's a hard thing for me to realize, that a hard thing for me to learn, but I have been putting in the effort to realize that the past is the past. And in addition, with me healing, it's learning how to let go of the shame and the guilt of my past actions that had been holding me back. I have started living in the here and now. That's a progress. I am still working on living in the here and now. And my recovery and healing has been me being more open with communicating and expressing my feelings and emotions in a more healthy way. Yes, it is okay not to be okay. It is okay to feel whatever emotions you're feeling: anger, um, sadness, irritability, that sort of thing. But it's that way that you do react to those feelings. So I have been able to communicate and express my feelings in a more healthier way. And lastly, my recovery and healing involves me being able to continue to share my story, so I can continue to see that I'm not alone. So that's it for me. That is my story. If you want to leave comments, feel free to reach out to me by Messenger. Drop a message in the comment section. And again, I'm going to post some resources for those of you who may need some resources for yourself with whatever it is you may be dealing with mental health wise, or if you know someone who could use the resources. And with this being the month to recognize mental health awareness, that mental health does matter, just keep in mind that this does extend beyond this month, that throughout your daily life, throughout your daily, your day to day basis, you know, mental health, your mental health does matter. And just realize that you who are struggling with mental health, just realize you're not alone. Love you guys and peace out.